It's the middle of December, Christmas is just round the corner, and yeah, another year's coming to a close. This is going to be our final get-together of the year. All the lads have come out for one final social, and I suppose we're here to share with you some of the moments we've had this year, some of the highlights, and also, you know, look forward to the year ahead. Really excited. We've done a swim draw. The lads are behind me now loading up their barrows. We've spread ourselves out nicely across the complex, and today we're down at the Carp Syndicate, Ash's incredible lakes. Been down here before. It's a fantastic setup, and I know all the lads just like me, we're really excited to go and get the rods out.
Before I first joined Nash, I'd never owned a pair of Air Maxes. I don't think I'd ever listened to drum and bass music, and I'd certainly never even considered going on a European adventure. 18 months in, I'm fully Nashified. For me, this has been one of my best years in angling, and really one of the real big highlights was going out to Germany to see Mark Vussen. We'd settled on mid-October, and with work being so busy, the time flew by, and before I knew it, it was time to venture onto the Eurotunnel on my own for the first time. Anyone that knows me will know that I don't tend to have a lot of luck when I'm on the continent.
Well, we're sat on a slipway at Lac de Saint-Cassien, and all would be lovely and good except Muggins here lost the van key.
And the prospect of going alone was a little bit daunting, but fortunately for me, the trip to Cologne was pretty much stress-free. So the plan was to fish 3 different venues over the course of the week, and the first venue that we went to was the Weedy Park Lake. As the name suggests, it's incredibly weedy, it's very shallow, and the water is gin clear. In regards to the stock, Mark said that the lake didn't really hold many carp, but the ones that it did hold were incredibly special. Mark's a seasoned professional when it comes to this type of fishing, and it didn't take him long to get all of his rods out. Me, on the other hand, I'd never dropped a rig from a boat before, and it took me a little while to get used to manoeuvring the boat about, but eventually I found 3 really nice spots. That type of fishing was really interesting because, again, it had been something new to me, and you can be super accurate with it, with every part of your presentation and your baiting up, and with the water being so tap clear, you could see absolutely everything. So as I said, I was well chuffed with my spots, but before we knew it, the first day had come and gone, and we went into the first night full of hope and anticipation. Unfortunately, the night passed with no action. With no signs of any sort of fish in the area, between me and Mark, we decided that it wasn't worth staying on. We decided to head off to the second venue. The next venue was the old gravel pit, and couldn't have been more of a polar opposite to the Weedy Park Lake. Back at home, this venue would probably be classed as a syndicate. The gated premises with some nice facilities on site, and the stock is a lot healthier, and Mark was a lot more confident that we were going to catch there. So we loaded the barrows up and headed right round to the other side of the lake, the furthest swim away from the car park as possible. It's coincidentally right next to the out of bounds area, and Mark had told me that the fish tend to spend a lot of the day in the out of bounds and will move out in the hours of darkness. In regards to the fishing, it was really simple. We chucked out a marker float at a comfortable range, grabbed a baiting spoon and deposited a load of scopehead squid, really hoping that when the carp did move out in the night, we'd be able to stop them. The first bite came in the early hours, and by first light we'd both had a carp waiting to be photographed. The carp I'd caught was a lovely mid-30 common, real character fish, real particular shape to him, big head. I was just chuffed to be off the mark with such a cool fish. And Mark's fish was a very angry common.
Look at him, all angry. Yeah, Lewis had a nice fish, and I had this little fella this morning, I think around 4 o'clock, in a deepest dreams. So our plan is to pack up, head to my place, shower up, get something warm in us, and then decide what's up next.
And between us we decided it was going to be worth staying one more night on the old pit. The decision to stay another night really paid off, because by the following morning I had another really good common waiting for pictures, and whilst making the first brew of the day, Mark had a run.
Moving nice and slow, plumbing away. Well, the way it feels, I would say another good 30, hopefully.
Here's a nice one. As I said, mine was a lovely common and Mark's was an absolutely awesome mirror.
Yeah, how about that? Early morning fish. Nice disturbance to our cup of coffee. And I would say we didn't even weigh it, but mid-30 all day. Nice mirror. The first one and the last one as we're leaving. But yeah, we were waiting for a fish like that.
Let's go on to the next place.
That's what I would say.
So it was time to move off onto the third and final venue. This venue is actually an active gravel pit. It's about 250 acres in size and was going to need a little bit of help. Fortunately, Mark's friend Martin was there to offer it. Martin was very kind to allow us to fish a swim that he'd been baiting and fishing fairly frequently up until the trip, and really it was going to be our best chance to see a real German chunk. With marker poles set out, we went out with the echo sounder and it really did show the extreme topography that we was going to be fishing over. There were big bars, plateaus and depths to over 40 foot. For me personally, again, something completely new to me and I'd never really come across before. So in all honesty, without the help of Mark and Martin, I wouldn't even know where to begin on such a venue. But with their guidance, we set out camp and positioned all the rods. For the first night, Martin decided he was going to stay with us. We managed 2 bites, one to me and one to Martin. And what made the moment even more special was the fact that Martin got to share it with his daughter. I was so happy just to catch one, but the guys were really confident of another few bites over the next couple of days, and sure enough they were right. I managed to catch a few small ones throughout the nights, and in the end I just slipped them ones back, but I did manage an awesome 30-pounder. And on the final morning I did manage one last carp. Mark had really repaid the favour, and I can't thank him and Martin enough for making my time in Germany so memorable. It wasn't until the journey home that I could really reflect on what had happened throughout the week. I'd set myself a goal at the start of the year and I definitely feel like I achieved it. Can't wait to return next year.
So one of my goals working at Nash for the last sort of 2 years has been to get into the bait factory and work with Gary. My role traditionally has been the brand manager of Nash Bait. It's more of a marketing based role, but now I've moved more into the bait factory to learn the real inside out of the factory and how it runs day to day, but also how we produce the bait, making sure that we bring the best possible quality product that we can. One product I'm really proud of, or a group of, is the spod syrups. Myself and Gary started developing them at the start of the year. We knew sort of a rough remit of what we wanted to achieve, but ultimately they've got to catch carp. So we started off by doing several different flavour combinations with the liquid attractors and some powdered additives as well. The main hurdle really was getting the thickness right. When you're pouring it over your bait, you want it to be nice and thick so it clings to the bait and descends with it as it drops through the water. So myself and Gary worked on this quite a lot. It was a bit of a hurdle, to be honest, and after 20 or so recipes, changing up the sort of powdered additives to increase the thickness, we got something that we were really happy with. One of the most fulfilling parts of my job is seeing them catch reports flood in for a bait you've developed, seen sort of grow from the early stages and you've released out onto the shelves. Most notably has been Joe Ashdown, a young 18-year-old lad from Kent who's been smashing his syndicate water on the Scopex squid. He's been applying it all year and he's caught carps at over 38 pound. It's great to see the emails and it's hugely fulfilling, and it makes up for all them hours working hard on the products to tweak them so they're exactly right for you guys when you use them out on the bank.
My trip to Rainbow in 2017 was an epic experience, and luckily in 2018 I got to repeat it. This time I was going with my mate Snowy and we had swim 19. Now 19 is known to be quite a good swim at times. Snowy had the right hand side and I had the left hand side. Now it started off quite well. I actually managed to fish on the first day, so hopes were high, but actually the lake fished quite slow that week. Nevertheless, Rainbow is an amazing place to just sit and take in the atmosphere, and actually Snowy managed to bag a couple of really nice fish, including an amazing 57 pound common.
You can have it up a little touch higher.
The highlight of the trip for me was actually seeing Colin Richards, who was in the swim next door to us, bag an incredible 74-pound common on the Scopex squid. So I got to photograph and film that, and that was an amazing experience. Hopefully 2019, 2020, I might be able to sneak another trip. We'll see. Another target this year is to beat my long-standing floater PB. It's something I try and do every year, and it stood for 15 years, 33 pounder. I had a few different opportunities this year, both on Horton, K1 and boat pool, and I managed to bag some really nice fish. I managed to equal my PB in the spring, but in August I actually managed to beat my floater PB, which has stood for over 15 years, with a fish of 42 pound 8 ounces. That's a fish called Fingers. It was an epic battle in and out of the weed, and it actually took 45 minutes to land it, but luckily managed to get it in the net, and yeah, it was an amazing experience.
In previous years, we've always set our eyes on a water in the UK and done a campaign, spending all of our time fishing that one water, trying to catch a certain fish or a big special fish. But this year it was slightly different. In April, we headed out to the USA and we had a trip of a lifetime.
We just saved up our enthusiasm and energy and time and money and just blew it all on a 2-week carp fishing adventure in the States. We went to Michigan with a few friends of ours.
The time spent in the USA was some of the best carp fishing moments I've ever experienced. The highlight has to be when we visited a beautiful lake in the middle of the Michigan forest.
The average size in there was over 30 pounds, and there was
ridiculous.
one night where I think we had 6 or 7 carp. I just remember photos in the morning, just 30-pound mint commons,
All of us.
all round.
Yeah, that was insane.
Spectacular bit of carp fishing. Other than that though, back home in the UK, we fish for a lot of other species. You know, we try and keep it interesting over the course of the year, keep our enthusiasm up, doing little bits of different species and trying new tactics and whatever, keeping it fresh. Amongst all those different species, I managed to tick off a shark for the first time in my life. Decided to take my 9-foot scope rod down to the coast, down to Penzance, went out in a boat and I caught a blue shark with a scope rod.
I don't know what to say. It's a bloody shark, mate.
Alex was very, very ill that day, so he didn't get a chance to come out on the boat. I was a little bit ill, marginally seasick, but catching a big old blue shark on my scope rod made it all worthwhile.
Brilliant. Nice one, buddy. I'm a little bit speechless and a little bit scared because this thing's got teeth.
In June, Kyle and I also drove down to Slovenia after watching Eurobanks 2 and seeing Alan and Ollie have the most incredible trip down on Lake Bled. We couldn't ignore that, we had to give it a go ourselves.
It's one of those places like bucket list location.
Yeah, you have to visit this at some point in your life.
Yeah, and we decided, well, if we're going to do it at any point, let's do it now.
Yeah.
Booked up our tickets quite a way in advance because it's quite a popular place these days. But we got there, had 3 or 4 days at our disposal. It turned out to be a really, really tough trip, but first thing we did when we arrived, parked our car after, how long was the drive? Like 20 hours or something?
We probably spent about 20 hours in the car, but we arrived, we got our bikes out, went to go on a ride around, and in the first bay that we came to, we couldn't believe it. There were fish lumping out, there were bubbles everywhere, and we just thought this must be an out of bounds zone or something, because there was just so many fish there. Anyway, we got our rods.
It took half an hour.
After
an
flicking the
hour
rods out,
yeah,
an hour or two, and I was into the biggest carp I've ever caught in my life.
No way! We got it. Oh.
This is my biggest ever carp I've ever caught, by a long way. As the year's coming to a close, we're starting to make our plans for next season, and we've got a fair few of them. After our incredible trip to the States, we couldn't ignore the fact that there's so much more to do out there, and next year we've got a trip planned with Brian, Brendan and Austin
to a very, very special water. Much bigger venue.
It's a huge place.
Much more like potential of size and also looks of those fish. Some of the carp in this place that we're looking into are pretty spectacular. But whether or not that comes off, whether or not we actually catch anything is a different story. What I'm slightly more confident of is that we will get back on that river, the small river close to our home, tidal stretch, because there's plenty of carp in there, and I'm sure we'll have a few out there next season with a bit of a baiting campaign around June 16th.
I think so, yeah.
But other than that, we're just looking forward to making plenty more videos, getting on the bank as regularly as possible, catching plenty of different species as well, and yeah, let's hope 2019 is half as good as 2018.
This year's been really eventful for me, and I've enjoyed this year's fishing more than I have any other year in the past. It's been really awesome, floater fishing wise, and the campaign that I'm on at the moment. I'm not going to say too much about the campaign, as there will be hopefully a video dropping on Nash TV when I eventually and hopefully catch the big one. But yeah, surface fishing as well this year, my floater PB again from my campaign water, so yeah, incredible year all round. But product wise, and probably one of my proudest moments of the year, was developing the new scope range with Al. It was a real tedious task, really tiring, a lot of long hours, several late nights, but we got there in the end. And actually on one of them late nights, I can remember it very clearly, we sort of sat there, I think it was about 1:30, 2 in the morning, and it was actually the recon rucksack when we come up with the idea of the back panel actually folding into a table. I had a previous sample made for myself where I was sort of testing a few bits out, where a table came out one way, Alan didn't agree with it, we sort of had a heated discussion, as I say, 1:30 in the morning. And then he's just flipped the backside open, folded it in half, and that's where sort of the idea from the recon rucksack come from. And at the shows it's awesome, because that is one thing people really do love. And the whole range in general, you know, when it's all there finished, all them late nights and all them long trips to China to get it developed and stuff really do make it worthwhile. So yeah, I'd say that is one of my proudest moments this year.
Here's my first fish and my contribution to the winter social. It's a single citrus pop-up, sort of cast to a deeper area of the lake where I thought the fish might be holding up. Turns out I was right for a change. It's only a small one, but considering the bitterly cold winds and horrible conditions, I'm more than happy with this one.
What a year it's been. I can't believe it's been over 10 years that I've been working at Nash Tackle. Had the time of my life, wouldn't change any of it for the world. Nashy's an absolute legend, and the lads I work with, yeah, they're the best friends that anyone could ask for. This year, it's been packed full of highlights. Everything from working on the product development, you know, the incredible barrow, the new scope range, right up to the opportunity to travel around the world, see new places and make new friends along the way. Of course, the highlight's been Eurobanks. It goes without saying. Every year, Ollie and I get to go in the van together, off on missions right around Europe. And this year really was something quite special.
The ticket to freedom.
Let's go, baby.
A lot of people email me and say, I'd love to do something like that. Go and do it, guys, you know, don't be intimidated by it. Simply find a friend that'd be up for it. You know, get the relevant rod licenses for the countries you want to fish and go and have that adventure yourself. The old saying, the world's your oyster, well, there's never a truer word. Find someone who's like-minded, wants to go on an adventure with you and get yourself over to Europe. Here's to 2019 and some banging adventures along the way. If I had to pick one highlight from one of the many events we've participated in 2018, for me it would have to be the Junior Carp Camp.
So you see the big patch of mixers where I just...
That's beautiful.
It's an incredible event. The guys at the Carp Society do a brilliant job in organising it, and we as a company each year offer our services by providing sort of tutors as well as tackle and bait. So us, the tutors, arrived sort of the night before the juniors were due to turn up. That gives us a chance to have a little catch up, have a nice meal together, and just get a feel for the lake really, find out where the fish are, find out what swims each tutor will be fishing for the week, and get a little bait in if needed. We've participated in the event for sort of the last 3 or 4 years now. However, this year just seemed to be that extra bit special. It all seemed to go to plan, if you like. So the fish were constantly on the move, meaning that different groups of lads were catching fish at different times, and people weren't just sitting there blanking for the entire week. So that helped in our favour. However, what we didn't expect was the downpour of rain we had for the following 24 hours, which made things really difficult on the fish front. Us guys in the summer bay, it just wasn't happening. The fish weren't in the bay, so all we could do was sit there, teach the juniors bits about rigs, watercraft, etc. However, the lads in the winter bay and further up the lake were really taking advantage of the weather and catching lots of fish. I think in the first sort of 24 hours there was 30 odd carp caught, some lovely fish to up to over 30 pounds I believe, and more importantly lots of PBs broken.
So we've had an absolute deluge of rain this afternoon, but kept going with the spots. Got 3 rods tartan area on a little clear spot, baited loads of squid flake and boilie, and here is the result. Lewis has caught this lovely 24-pound linear. Perfect.
Well done, mate. Cheers.
PB shot? Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, mate.
Well done, mate. Big smiles all round.
Stand right, kids. Hold your bag.
Yes.
Car hero? Yes, yeah.
Do. Oh, mate, dorsal's up and everything.
Obviously, it's not just about catching the fish. Over the course of the few days, there's several aspects of angling that are taught by the tutors, from watercraft, rigs, baits, and most importantly of all, fish care.
So rest, just hold, so the weight of the fish is supported on your leg.
Yeah, okay.
So you won't find it as heavy,
Oh,
and it looks carpy AF. So we've just got back from lunch, and it was obvious there was fish on the surface in Summer Bay. So I've run to the van, grabbed the floater gear, and Matt's had this one off the top quite quickly. Buzz in?
Yes.
New PB, first 20, job done.
Over the next few days, the weather significantly improved, and on the final morning, we woke up to glorious sunshine. The lads had caught them on the bottom, they had caught them over bait, and it was now our turn in the Summer Bay to catch them on the floaters. And in true Nash fashion, we spent that final afternoon spotting mixers, casting bulk machines out, and landing several carp off the top.
Well done, Macy. That's good.
All in all, it was a great event and one in which I was incredibly proud to be a part of. For me, it's all good trying to teach them through magazines and through video and whatnot. However, actually physically being on the bank, teaching them the tactics, for them to go and put it into practice and catching the fish is one that just cannot be beaten.
Come on. Well done, mate.
Go on it.
Yeah, get it on the head. Oh, that's sweet. Well done, mate. Good.
Yes, Ollie! Well done, Ollie.